You are listening to the Beyond Believing podcast. I am your host, Katie Ann. I am a certified life coach, a divorced mom to 5 amazing children, and I am here to share some love and encouragement with you about healing and moving on post-divorce as a Christian woman. Stick around after the show for some details on how we can work together. Welcome to episode 26 of the Beyond Believing podcast, what I am calling Mindset Shifts. This week, I sat down and watched for the first time in a very long time a movie with my children, and I let my children pick out what they wanted to watch, and they chose A Walk to Remember, or my 14-year-old daughter chose A Walk to Remember. And this is a movie about a young woman who is a very devout Christian. Her father is a reverend, and she befriends and eventually falls in love with a young man who is a little troubled and seeking his way out in the world in not a very productive Christian way. And she makes a profound impact on his life. And as they are kind of developing their relationship and he's just starting to really find God, he learns that she has leukemia and, of course, does not take it very well. And she says something that really stuck out to me. She said, "I do not need a reason to be angry with God." And this really got me thinking about reasons we become angry with God. Usually we all, I think, have multiple reasons to be angry with God if we really want to be. And this got me thinking again about how our feelings are influenced by the things that we think about and why the Bible is always telling us to take every thought captive, because it does impact our feelings so much. But we don't often stop and think about, if I don't want to be angry, what is it that I do need to focus on? And what do I need to let go of? And I think that's kind of what this girl was saying, that there are things that she does not want to focus on. And she wants to be able to be in the presence of God and with Him and the comfort that He allows her. It made me think about lessons in this season. And as I was reading in my Bible this week in Genesis, the story of Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, the promises that God has given to Abraham are not small. Like, you and I are living impact of that covenant that He's made with Abraham, right? This is a huge, huge covenant that He's sharing. But this week I was reading in Genesis 21, right after the birth of Isaac, and Sarah then turns on Hagar and casts her out. I was reading this and I just could not help but be struck with the idea that Hagar becomes like the first single mom that we read about in the Bible, from what I understand. And I'm not a biblical scholar by any means or stretch of the imagination. But as I was reading this, it just really struck me that Hagar becomes a single mom. She is, of course, weeping and expects her son Ishmael to die, right? And so she leaves him and crawling so far away so she can't hear him. In verse 16, it says, "She went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. And as she sat there, she began to sob." And in verse 17, God shows and says, "God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, 'What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation.'" And then verse 19, this is what really stood out to me. It says, "Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water." What, friends, this just really stood out to me, that what is right in front of you today, God is providing for you, but you cannot see. What do you need to ask God to open your eyes to? Nikki points out, and when I say Nikki, I mean Nikki Gumbel, because this is his Bible study for those of you who maybe have not heard me share about that before. But he points out that human suffering is most often a cause of our own sin and straying from God's plan for us, and our inability to be patient and waiting for God's promises and plan for us to happen, as is what we see happen with Hagar and Sarah and Abraham. Abraham did not believe Sarah was going to conceive, and Sarah didn't believe she was going to conceive in her old age. And so she insisted that Abraham take Hagar and build his nation and his posterity through her. And then as a result, once the promise is fulfilled to Sarah, she has Isaac as soon as she realizes she is going to provide the promise that God already promised. She realizes this really is true. Then she becomes resentful. She becomes resentful of Hagar. And really, at our core, this is how the model works. Sarah resents her own decision and her own insistence of Abraham taking Hagar and producing an heir with him. But she can't take that back. So instead of taking accountability for what she chose, she then feels that resentment and acts out towards Hagar and insists that Abraham kicks her out and her child Ishmael. She doesn't want them part of that anymore as a result of her decision. And so then Hagar and Ishmael are the ones who suffer. And we often do this, but don't often take time to really evaluate or understand it in our own lives. We just cannot see sometimes past our own humanness and our inability really to be patient with God for the promises that He is given and laid out to us. We act out. Again, I shared last week about rebellion being really just a decision of like, I have the say. It's my right to make this final decision or to say for myself. That's really what Sarah and Abraham did. I have the right to choose how to make this covenant I made with God come to pass instead of trusting and waiting on God to allow it to come to pass in His time. And what I think is very interesting also is that at the beginning of chapter 21 in Genesis, it says in verse 2, Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the very time God had promised him. This is again, and Ecclesiastes, Solomon says everything is meaningless, but everything has purpose and meaning under the sun and is beautiful in its time and in its season. There is beauty and purpose in the season God plans it to be. And when we try to take things out of that season and out of His timeline and out of His purpose and make them ours, that's when we are making a mess. God isn't making a mess. We are making a mess. Sometimes it feels like God is just testing us and pushing us a little too far, and our ability to be patient or to bear the brunt of the suffering or the struggle just feels overwhelming. But instead of turning to God to carry that and giving Him that burden, we turn to finding our own human solutions. This is a problem because we only understand life and vision and decisions from what we've already been through and where we're at in this current moment. We don't see and understand the future or how this is going to have consequences for us. We can take really good educated guesses. We can do a perceived outcome, a projected outcome. But the difference is God sees the whole picture. He actually has the outcome. He knows the outcome. There is no linear timeline for God. He sees it not just for me, not just for you in your life and where you're at, but for everyone in our sphere of influence and how it's going to impact every single person. We just don't get that we're limited and God is not. And it's interesting because we do, but then we do things that counteract that, like Abraham and Sarah did. And then we're suffering and we're causing suffering to other people. And we're like, how did God allow this to happen? When really the question is, why didn't I trust God? Or why did I allow this to happen? Why did I rely on my own strength instead of His? This got me thinking a lot about capacity and what we're asking from God for. When we are asking God for things, we just think it's this simple transition from where we're at to where we want to be. And in reality, there are things that we need to learn along the way and skills we need to develop in order to be in that place. We've got to increase our capacity and a threshold. And we've got to, again, learn new skills. And you don't just acquire those overnight. It requires time and development. You understand, you don't go to elementary school and just start reading 6th grade material, or you don't just go and learn how to read and then jump into college material. You don't go to school to learn math and start with algebra or trigonometry. You usually start with basic math, right? Addition and subtraction. You learn about the numbers. First, you have to identify numbers. There are steps to learning and there are steps to development in our lives and there are steps to achieving. And there are certain things we don't learn how to just run as babies. We have to learn how to sit up and then we have to learn how to roll over and we learn how to crawl and then we walk and then we run. there are muscles that have to be developed. There's eye-hand coordination. There are skills and literal physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, financial skills you have to learn at every aspect of your life in order to reach where it is you want to go. But we want to skip all that stuff, right? We just want to get to that spot where we think it's going to be. And this is a perceived I'm going to reach this spot and have X, Y, or Z experience, or it's going to be the ultimate fulfillment of my life. I had this thought the other day that you understand you're in a new space in life when you no longer are seeking after acquiring things, or specifically my season right now is when I was young, I used to just want to be a mom. I just wanted to be mom. I wanted to have children. I just wanted to be a mom so bad. But in the steps to being a mom, you have to find a husband. So I thought, well, I've got to have a husband in order to be a mom. So I just want to have a husband, and then I'm going to be able to be a mom. And then I'm going to have everything that I could possibly want or need or dream of in this life. And now I'm on this side of marriage, and I'm actually divorced, and I have 5 children. My oldest is an adult. I don't even know what to think about that, but it's very far down the road, right? And clearly that wasn't the solution to all of my problems. And now my current solution to my problem is I just need to get through menopause. If I can just get through menopause, I'm going to be so happy. And then I thought, I am for sure not in my youth anymore. when that is the tipping point right now of things for me to look forward to in order to have happiness and achieve everything in my life. But we do this to ourselves. We have these goals and aspirations and achievements that need to occur in order for us to have everything. And what we really, really need is God. We just need God. One of my very favorite songs. So I listen every morning I get up, and I have what I call a morning worship playlist. And it's changed a little bit over the years since I've started doing this, but I have a song that I started to listen to, and it's More Than Able. I forgot. Chandler Moore, I think is his name. If you're really into Christian worship music, you probably know who I'm talking about and what song, and are probably a little unimpressed with my lack of knowledge in this area. But in this song, he says something that is really, really beautiful to me. It kind of keeps me going. I'm not going to lie. He says, "You're not done with me yet." There's still things that God is using me for. And that requires me to develop. And that requires some discomfort. And that requires some things that are uncomfortable for me, but also feel outside of my capacity. And we have in our minds a threshold. We have a perceived threshold and a capacity for what we believe we're capable of or what we can tolerate. Whenever God is challenging us, we think something has gone wrong, when really God is trying to lead us to what we've asked him for. He's just helping to increase our skills and help us develop the characteristics and the character in order to become who it is we've asked him to help us be. He is just helping us increase that capacity and threshold. This is when we can rely on his strength and not on our own. When you understand, I've asked you for something, God, and I've had to put my trust in you to allow it to happen in your way. And I have this faith in you that I know you're going to provide this, but I have to provide a willing, submissive spirit in order to allow you to guide me to that. And that means I think that we just are in the process. But why is this so hard for us? I was thinking, have you ever looked back at something God did for you that you really asked for and were disappointed? Have you ever looked back and saw God's hand answer your prayers and you thought, yeah, I would have done that a different way? Maybe I would have done it a different way and it would not have been as beautiful. What I think every time I look back in my life and I see his hand and I know that he was there, I am amazed and humbled every time. There are things I never could have considered or made possible. There's so many minute pieces sometimes that have to come together. But why is it so hard for us just to trust that going forward? Like we can look back for those, but going forward, why is it so hard for us? Do you think that God has got to be the most patient for a reason? Because we ask him and then we tell him we're going to submit. We make, and he made this beautiful covenant with Abraham. He says, I'm going to make your posterity like the stars. You're not going to be able to number them. And then he still had to wait nearly 100 years for that promise to be fulfilled. And it said it came at the very time God had promised him. Do you ever as a human read that and think, how is that possible? Because it's like been 100 years. Like, how has it been the perfect time that you promised? Because we made this covenant like 100 years ago and just now it's coming to pass. Our brains just cannot comprehend God and his plan and his purpose and his promises. And then today, those promises are still being fulfilled. That is mind-blowing. The power and magnitude and detail that God has for our lives. I want to just offer again that you just allow God to show you what is right in front of you that he's providing and he's answering that you just can't see. Like, open my eyes. Would you open my eyes like you opened Hagar's? And some of us, we want to be the main character. We want to have the Sarah. We want to be the Sarah to the Abraham. But in reality, some of us are the Hagar. Also in reality, Hagar is loved. And there's a plan and a purpose provided for her and Ishmael, just as much as there was a plan and purpose for Isaac and Sarah. Like, that is amazing. You are not less than if you're the Hagar. I think that is a lesson that I'm learning a little bit. It's mind-blowing. I'm so grateful for the insight that sometimes that God helps me. This is just one of those mindset things. This is just a little shift from that rebellious, like it's mine to decide, it's mine to choose, and I get to be the end. But again, have you ever looked back and something you decided to do in your own way and you were not disappointed in some way? I have in my life found very many Sarah, Hagar, Abraham-like sufferings that I created in my own way, almost quite honestly, every time that I try to do that in my rebellion, doing that, but it's my decision. And if you are struggling right now with how to shift your mindset to one of peace and comfort and acceptance, that this is a beautiful and God-blessed season for you, I encourage you, friends, just open your Bible. It is full of new thoughts and wisdom for you. And if you really, really want him to, God will open your eyes and show you exactly what he has for you. I can offer you all kinds of ideas. And to be honest, I have and I do. Everything that I've shared today and every single week is simply my own thoughts. They're simply my own mindset and my ideas about what I have learned and what I've understood. And I'm just passing them along with you because they've made such a profound impact on my life and they help me to feel God and they help me to be more at peace and like I am where God wants me to be. But to you, they might not bring that very same experience. And that, my friends, is the beauty of life and the freedom that we each get to choose what we want to believe and focus on. You are listening to me and hopefully the Spirit's working in you and teaching you something you need comfort about or hope or a new understanding about in your journey. Right now, your mind right now is forming all kinds of new thoughts or bringing old ones to the surface to either agree or disagree with the ones that I'm sharing with you. And you have the opportunity to decide what you're going to believe about all of it. You get to decide, I want to feel X, Y, or Z. What do I need to believe or think or have in my mind in order to have that feeling? In my class last week, one of my classes, I read this quote about the Bible, and the author of the book says, we don't need a new word or a fresh word from God. We simply need to be content with the word he has already provided. My assignment was to share how this aligned with my current understanding or beliefs or not. And I said it did because, and this is what I shared, is that we have a tendency as humans to always want more. Sometimes we just want an easier path to understanding. And in our quest for such, we're tempted to add in resources, tools, and ways to learn and understand the Bible instead of just wrestling with God to help us in our understanding. And I'm not saying that there's nothing that you can turn to, or you shouldn't be putting other good information into your life, or you shouldn't be seeking out resources that point you back to God, as long as they're pointing you back to God and they're pointing you to His Bible and not trying to take the place of His word in your life. I just want to offer that if you're avoiding a wrestle with God, or maybe if you're even in the middle of the wrestle with Him, but you're avoiding turning to His word, or maybe you've already received your answer and you're in a waiting period where you are feeling like your faith is maybe getting stretched and you are running out of hope, or you're running out of your own capacity, or maybe you're just in the season of increasing that capacity and you're feeling like you're being pushed outside of your comfort zone. I encourage you to carve out time to really immerse yourself in His word in the Bible. There is more comfort, wisdom, guidance, hope, faith, encouragement, and love, and on, whatever it is that you need, than anything I can do or say. There's absolutely everything you need in the pages of this book. I'm going to leave you with this verse from 2 Chronicles. It says, "But as for you, be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded." We falsely believe that we know the reward and we know when it's going to come. We expected that reward to be whatever we want, whenever we want it. And I have learned a little bit of humility and submission with God goes a really long ways. I will just share the story before I close. I was having a little bit of a pity party for myself. I am really a great pity party thrower. So if you need help in that area, let me know. I've got ideas. But no, I'm not really. I just was really struggling with where God has me right now. I was really struggling with how is this season really blessed by Him. I just felt like I'm missing something. I'm missing something because it isn't the way I wanted it to go, and it's not on the path that I thought it was going to be on. I was at work the other day and I just had God really clearly tell me, this is exactly where I need you, because I need you to learn some of these specific things in order for you to get to where you want to go. And when I just embraced that instead of fighting against it, truly the scripture, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, just came to me like the most peace I have ever felt. And that is what I know is available to me and to you at any time. But I have come to the conclusion that one of the lessons I'm learning in this season is submission. And submission is not a natural gift that I have. I have learned that I submit to all the wrong people and I do not submit to all the right ones, aka God. And He's immensely merciful and gracious in helping to teach me that. But I just really in that moment was, and that's one of the reasons why I've proclaimed this year God's year. Because I really know that when I just trust Him and I just give it to Him, I give Him the burden, I give Him the stress, I give Him the worry, I give Him my fear and anxiety and all of my confusion and doubt, He just fills me with that peace. And I know with absolute certainty that He has something beautiful planned and prepared for you as well. Whatever you need right now is available to you, if you're just willing to allow God to open your eyes to see it. And if you've already got your eyes open to it, allow Him to show you what's that little mindset shift that you need to make to really rely on Him. And I'll say that verse one more time in 2 Chronicles, "But as for you, be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded." Have a great day, friends. You have been listening to Beyond Believing with Katie Ann. If you have enjoyed any of what you have heard today, if anything I have shared has helped you in any way, please take just a very quick minute to leave me a 5-star review or a rating on your podcast platform of choice. I share all of this content with you for free so you can have it. So if you can in turn, let me know how you have benefited from this. And if you would like to hear me share about a specific tool or struggle you are experiencing in your post-divorce journey as a Christian woman, please contact me. I would love to hear from you. And if you would like to hire me to speak at an event or work with you, please reach out to me at the email in my show notes. Thanks for listening.